Hey, how's it going, everybody? Coach D here, All Out Athletes. And I'm here once again with one of our coaches who's taken part in the Last Dance Baseball Tournament. And here we are at the Last Dance Baseball Tournament podcast. And by now, we know everybody who's been watching these podcasts know what the Last Dance is. It's the Last Dance for the seniors. And it starts tomorrow. We are 1 day away. So there's a lot of excitement going on. There's a lot of concern about the virus with the pandemic going on. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to pick the coach's brain who's with me right now of all his philosophies and how he got to be where he is. And he's with me today. So let me introduce him. He's the head coach over at Jackson Memorial High School. He coached for 5 years. He came over from the A.L. Johnson High School over in Clark. He won the 2014 Group 4 championship, along with the throughout his time, he's won 5 Shore Conference Class A South titles, and he's won the Ocean County Championship. So with me today is Coach Frank Malta. Coach, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here today.
So you look happy.
Quite the introduction, man. Quite the introduction. That's a good one.
You look like you're chilled over there. You just everything good? You good to go?
Just relaxing, man. At this point, I'm so used to the schedule of my day. We're usually up getting a workout in. I'm watering my lawn. My lawn, by the way, looks fantastic. My wife can't give me enough kudos to it. I'm home, so I'm not working camps. I'm not coaching right now, so the lawn looks great.
Hey, Coach, remember when you were in college and hanging out late at night and you went from that to getting up at 6 a.m. and going to Home Depot to get fertilizer so you can sit back and go, look how great my lawn is.
Man, look at it, man. I get a cup of coffee and just kind of stare out at it. It's good. Emerald green, baby. Emerald green.
That's great. That's great. Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time today. It's great having you on. Can you give us a little bit of background of what motivated you to become a coach, where you played high school and college baseball, and some of the things that you learned from there, some of those great coaches that helped you become what are some of the philosophies they had to help you become the coach you are today?
Yeah, I kind of knew I wanted to be a coach probably, I don't know, in 10th or 11th grade. I knew I wanted to get into it. I had such great experience at Elizabeth High School. Growing up, developing as a player in the program there. Ray Korn and Dan Mondelli were the coaches there at the time. Ray was the head guy. Danny was the assistant. And, I just had a great experience with those guys. A lot of my teammates got into coaching as well. During that time, I graduated there in 91. And then, by the time I was done with college, I got right into coaching. I played at Kane. I played my 4 years there. And then when I was done in 95, I got right into it in 96. I went back and volunteered at Elizabeth for that year. And then I got a job, a freshman job at Roseville Park for a year. And then I was a JV coach at Johnson for 2 years with Gary Ruban, whose son plays up in Walk Hill Valley right now. I think Gary's actually coaching that team, his son's team, in the Last Dance tournament. I just talked to him the other night, as a matter of fact. So he's kind of getting back into it. He hasn't coached baseball in a while. He's been watching his sons grow up. And then he left. He wound up moving up to Walk Hill when he was from Clark. And then I got the job there at Johnson. I was 24, 25, and I got the job, I think, in 2000. And then, I went down to Jackson. I went down to Jackson for the 2005 season. So, for me, it's been fun because both programs I took over, I was able to establish just my thoughts, my ideas of what I wanted to do with the program. For me, I love foundation stuff. I can't get enough in practice of just, breaking guys down, letting them see footwork, letting them see certain things. I love to allow my guys to tell me what's comfortable, tell me what's not comfortable, what we're doing. We do a lot of dialogue. And I've always done it that way. We're just where I get their take on certain things, what's comfortable, what's not comfortable, and I've been very fortunate that in my time, I've had a lot of guys that are very coachable. And when I say that, to me, that just means that they're willing to trust and they're willing to do what our coaches and, my coaching staff are trying to establish, with some of the things that we do every day in practice. And I love their feedback. I think that's a great thing.
So you said you started there in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you're different now than you were in 2005.
Absolutely.
So what makes you a different coach now that you maybe wish you would have known back in 2005 when you first started? Maybe one thing. Maybe one.
I don't know. I don't know if it's one thing like that. I just think what I love about coaching, what I love about it, what I do is that I'm always able to change with the kid, to change with, what you have there, in terms of talent level, in terms of athleticism, in terms of the type of players you have. I think for me, that's the most fun each year when you have new players coming in and other kids, younger kids coming up. How are you coaching them? You can't coach every kid the same. We're not big into teaching the same thing for every kid because every kid is different. So, I think that's something I learned very early on, as a coach, as a young guy. And, now I think as an older person, as an older coach who's been around it with some very good assistant coaches that I have in Jackson, I think we just do a very good job of allowing the kids to play and practice at their level, whatever that is. And then we can kind of just come in and tweak and do little things to do it. Our pitching coach, Nick Coleman, he loves, the camera work. He loves video. He loves feedback that way. I love to be on the field with our infielders and our defense and working through those footwork patterns and things like that. Our hitting coach, Brandon Vega, he does an excellent job in the cage. Our guys all have notebooks, for themselves as hitters. So I think those little things where we let the kids, the kids have a big part of, how we do things, and what's comfortable, what's not comfortable. And I just think those are the things that I think allow the kids to get the most out of what they're doing and allow us as coaches to have the most fun because we can do so many different things with them.
So you made some really good points there. I had asked you what makes you a different coach now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you had gone right to the fact that, well, basically you're saying, well, it depends on the athletes I'm getting. So I'm teaching differently, if I'm hearing you right, depending on the athletes. And that's the challenge, right? Because every athlete comes in with the same thing. I want to be the best, right? I want to be the champion. I want to be that. But then sometimes you see the way they're training it and you're like, all right, they're not disciplined enough. That's going to be a challenge. I got to do something right. But every kid's a different challenge. And I think for new and up and coming coaches, that's a great way to look at it. Is that your coaching philosophy, as gung-ho as you are. Remember the coach when you first started coaching, you have the way you're going to coach and everybody's going to do it, and you establish that. And then you realize, wait, it's not working with that. And then you get frustrated. But then, as you know, coach, as the experience goes on and on, if they don't learn the way that we teach them, then we have to teach them the way they learn. Right. And that's the challenge that you're going through each year of learning how they learn. How do they learn? Because once we learn how they learn, it opens up. The yelling, we have to yell so much. We have to get so frustrated. The frustration level for us goes down. Yeah. And I think that's a great point you bring up. Yeah. So you had said you always wanted to go into coaching, right? Mm-hmm. Was there any point where you were like, I'm going to the major leagues, and then at some point, like, it ain't. At what point did you say it's not happening? Did you know that at 11 it wasn't happening? Like, at what point?
Everybody's going to the major leagues as a player in their mind, Yeah. But it's funny because everybody's got their stop. Everybody's getting off at a certain stop off the bus. Mine was I was able to go play in college. I was able to go play college baseball, so I was fortunate with that. Some guys don't get that that opportunity. Some guys then move beyond college baseball. Mine was there, and as I said, as soon as I got out, I got right into it. So, I was fortunate in that regard. I love playing. I made the most of my time playing through high school and college. I played in all my summer leagues. I tried to, keep on going, but, for me, that's where it ended. And I was settled with it. I was fine with it. I think because I knew what I wanted to do. You know, I also got a teaching job immediately. You know, I graduated in December of '95. So I was finished playing in that spring of '95, and then I was able to finish my student teaching in December of '95 because I couldn't student teach while I was playing. And then by January '96, I was working, I was teaching. So I was fortunate. I got right out. I started working, and then I started coaching. And, you know, it's just what I've done, you know, since that time.
You know, I really like what you said. Here at All Out Athletes, I do we do a podcast on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. with a professor
Right.
of sports psychology, the great Dr. Gilbert. And so one of the things, so we talk about all different concepts of, are you going to hold back or go all out? You know, that's what all Out Athletes is. And as you're talking about, there's a bus, and I wrote that, I like that. Everybody's on a bus. So you got all these athletes who are going all out because everybody wants to make it to the major leagues.
Yeah.
But everybody has a different drop off. Everybody has a different station they're going to be dropped off at. And there might be, maybe, out of all the people you're with, maybe there's one guy left on the bus and he gets dropped off at the minor leagues, right? Never makes it to the majors.
Yeah.
So as you were saying, you knew that you wanted to be a coach at an early, like you knew. So what would you say is the biggest challenge for you as a coach? What is one of the biggest – now, challenge doesn't have to be a negative thing, right? So what is, like, I don't want to say, I guess, struggle, or maybe even something that you might have struggled with early? You know, we could talk about the challenge of the athletes. You know, we already talked about that. But is there anything else that, you know –
I loved as a young coach, I guess the challenge for me was, you know, when you're a freshman JV coach, you're by yourself, you know, and I think that's where you do the most learning. And I love that part of it because I was the pitching coach, the hitting coach, the defensive coach, you know, base running. We did everything. And I thought that was the most, I don't know. I think that's where that stuff was so valuable for me as a young guy, you know, to be able to be responsible for all of those things because, you know, as the biggest thing for me is the competitive aspect of it. I'm a competitor. And I've been very fortunate to have coached so many competitors. I think when you have those kids that just, that they have that fire in their belly, that pit in their stomach, that they don't want to lose, that they hate losing more than they love winning. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it, you know? So, you know, when as I have that drive in my guys and I'm trying to run those practices as a young guy, on the freshman and JV level, I think that's what built me to this point today, you know. And I think there's so many young coaches that I hope that they understand the same thing. I don't know if I understood the same thing as a young guy, you know, about how much that was going to benefit me in the long run and how much that was going to benefit me, you know, 20 years later today. But, you know, I think that's the invaluable stuff and the challenge that, you know, you get every day, and that, you know, at the freshman and JV level, you know, you're, like I said, you're doing everything every day, you know, and you're doing it by yourself. And I think that's the great thing. And then, you know, the challenge too is, hey, did the kids see my passion? And I think they did, you know, fortunately, you know, because I was such a passionate person. I was such a competitive person. And I just love the teaching part of it. I love to see guys, you know, take steps and get better. You know, I don't think there's anything greater as a coach than to see guys develop in your program. I love the guys too that stick around in the program and have not necessarily been stars, you know, along the way in little league or middle school, and yet we find a way because they stick to it and they just come out every day that they finally, you know, get their opportunity with us. And we've had so many of those guys. Like, we've had a ton of guys in Jackson who never made a middle school team, but yet came out for the freshman team, made it, and then just stuck with it and worked their butts off, you know, through the off season, through the summers. And then they find themselves with a role. They find themselves with a spot. And we've had so many of those guys who've been big parts of some of our championship teams because, you know, those are the guys that they've just had to dig deep their whole baseball career. And then, you know, when they get that opportunity, they weren't going to let it pass by. I think those are pretty awesome stories. You know, we have just right off the top of my head, I have 5 or 6 guys that just jump off the page, you know, that have done those things for us. And what's better than that? You know, when as a coaching staff, you see that, you know, you're developing those guys and how much they appreciate it, you know, and how much they're enjoying being a part of it. You know, at the highest level, and I say the highest level because, they're competing in tournament time, they're competing at championship time and in playoff games and doing the job.
You bring up two really good points, and one of them's a quote I wrote down. I'm going to get back to that in a second.
Yep.
But you had said so you had athletes who weren't good, right? But they were into it. So
we say good, but like at the same time, I've been very fortunate in Jackson. We've had a ton of talent, ton of talented kids. So, maybe if they're living somewhere else and competing in another town, they might be making those teams, but in Jackson, they just, they weren't able to do it at that level. So I don't want to say that, but I know what you're saying. I know what you mean by it. Yes.
Right. So what I'm basically trying to say is when you speak about these kids, I see the look on your face, and the look on your face to me is not because of how talented they were. From what I'm getting sitting here is from how into it they were. So even though they weren't the best player on your team, they just wanted to be they didn't have to be the best in order to train at their best.
Right.
And that look on your face of the love that it looks like you have to train those athletes.
Yeah.
And what athletes don't realize is that when you come out to train at your best, as passionate as the coach is, there's always another level of energy and excitement the coach could go to, and that ignites the coach to want to give you more. They don't want to give more because a lot of times you get that one player who doesn't want it. And a lot of coaches, sometimes we make a mistake and spend too much time focused on the player who doesn't want it, and not enough time with the rest of the team. Was like, Coach, you're ready to go. Why are we spending all this time over here?
Well, I think a big part of that is when, when those kids see that passion in what we're doing as coaches, it almost, that's where they get that buy-in, and that's where they say, all right, if it's your most talented player and he's got that passion and he's got that fire and that competitiveness, I think that just feeds off on everyone from, who would be your least talented guy and when that, and everybody in between, because when you have your best players, your most talented guys, feeding off of the passion that we have as coaches, that to bring it every day in practice, to bring it every day in the game, to be able to respond in what are high pressure situations in the course of a baseball game. That's the stuff that I think just it all feeds off of each other, and I think that's something that I found out right away when I got to the Shore and into the A South. Man, it was like, it was the 4th of July, man. It was just fireworks, because on any day, anybody can beat anybody. There's a lot of talent, and that's in and out of the Shore. I say the A South because that's what we see all the time. But you play out. I love to play these other teams in the Shore during tournament time or even scrimmages, because you see the amount of ability, the amount of talent there. And I realized too, at that point that I had to be better because the Shore is just, I don't know, man. It's a lot of fun to coach in because of the amount of talent and because of the very good coaches that were and are in the Shore. And that was fun for me too. We talked about challenges earlier. I think that was another thing that I maybe should have mentioned, in that when I first got down there to the A South, I realized, man, how much better I had to make our teams in order to be able to compete. First in the A South, and then within the Shore, and then within the state. There's sometimes, we were fortunate in that, a lot of our games in the A South were, tournament type games during the regular season. So when we got to tournament time, there wasn't really, we didn't feel a difference, because we saw how competitive it was. We saw how bad teams want to beat each other, and I think that just allowed us to get to a certain level. And be able to compete with the best teams in the state. So I think that was a lot of fun for me to see that and learn that part of it as well.
You bring up a great point, because here I talk to athletes. I do a locker room speech on Monday mornings to help ignite the fire of athletes. And one of them because help to ignite the fire during their training, right? Because for the game, everybody a lot of times is ready to go. It's the training that you want to help ignite that fire within for. And you bring up the fire within, but you bring up a good point to where when I talk to athletes, I try to tell them you're either being hunted or you're the hunter.
Yeah.
Well, who's hunting you? The
Yeah,
best. The best
Mhm.
is hunting you. And if
Yep.
you're not hunting for the best, then you're being hunted. And
Yep.
that's one of the things that you're bringing up. So when you see somebody better than you, are you the prey or are you going to hunt them? Right? Because if you want to be the best, you got to hunt the best.
Yep.
And as you're saying, the look on your face was excitement when you saw how good your competition was. And
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
I think athletes, they beat teams that they can beat, and they feel really good about themselves. They're like, no, you're supposed to beat them. But when you beat a team you're not supposed to beat, right? And that comes from the attitude that you're portraying, that you see the competition and you get excited for it. You don't give up. You go up. You want to be up at that level. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And a lot of athletes sometimes see the other team show up and they hate them or they don't like them, you know. So and I'm like, no, that's the people that are going to make you better. And that's what you're saying. Those coaches, you're respecting those coaches. They're making you think differently. They're making you go up. They're making you a better coach because of how you're surrounded by good coaches. So if you don't step up your game and good players, there's no sense for you to be there. Why do you want to beat people you can beat and be excited about it? That's like playing against your little brother, right? So
you're right.
And then telling everybody how great you are.
Because one of my favorite quotes, it still is the lion and the gazelle, you know, and it was just like you're saying, you know, you're the hunted or the hunted, you know. And, you know, that was one thing that I used to love for our guys because I just wanted them to have that passion. Look, you're either going after the prey or you're running from the prey, man. But either way, you're running. So, you know, it's just kind of how we talked about going about our daily or, you know, handling our daily business was just that to just to have that fire. You know, we've had so many teams that, you know, responded. You know, baseball is usually a game where you say, all right, you know, you want to stay at a certain level, you know, throughout and not get too high, not to get too low. And I agree with that. But we've had a lot of teams in my time that we were able to just work up into a frenzy and it worked. They played better, you know, in that environment of just, you know, firing them up, getting them excited, you know, talking about, you know, there was a lot of dislike in the A South. There always is, you know, and I say dislike, it's, you know, it's just big rivalry games. You know, it's a lot of big schools down there. And, you know, everybody, like I said earlier, just wants to beat each other up. And so, you know, to build our guys up into that frenzy and then to see them respond and under those circumstances, that's great. But then we've also had teams where, you know, we just kind of had to, you know, lay back a little bit and allow them to stay relaxed and allow them to play. And it's funny because in 2014, when we won the state championship, you know, that whole state championship run was, I don't know, was probably the most relaxed I think I ever was as a coach. You know, and I don't know why. It was the confidence of the team. It was the confidence of how, you know, our pitching responded to being in those situations and to our hitters and the type of kids that we had. But, you know, I think nerves are great, actually. You know, I like a little butterfly in the stomach. You know, I tell our guys that all the time. Butterflies in the stomach before a game, before a tournament, that just means you care. You know, people talk, well, if you're nervous, that means you're not prepared. I disagree with that. I think if you're nervous, I think you care. You know, so, but it was funny because, you know, and you know, you're in the middle of a state tournament run in 2014, and to say you don't care that'd be crazy, right? But I was so relaxed that the most relaxed I ever was, and I can't tell you why. Only maybe just the fact that, you know, we had two or three pitchers that were really very good. We just had so much confidence in, and I had a team that, you know, was just very confident in playing behind those guys. So, you know, it's funny, but that always sticks out in my mind. You know, that type of behavior. You know, and that why was that? You know, so it's funny, ironic maybe.
Yeah, you bring up a couple things there. So yeah, there is a quote, and I believe in this. I'm not contradicting you. I'm going to explain. Mm-hmm. But it's So there's that quote that you can't be scared if you're prepared. So my definition of scared is where you're so nervous it paralyzes you.
Yeah.
And if you're not training to be the best, you'll never beat the best. So
Right.
if you're that then you should be scared if you haven't trained. But if
Yeah.
you're a little nervous, see, you want to be a little nervous, right? So nervousness and excitement are on the same scale. You want to be
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. If
Yep.
you're too excited, then
Yep.
then you may overlook a few things. If you're so
Yep.
nervous, you're not going to do anything, right? So
Right.
you want to be like, if you're going on that first date and you're not a little nervous, you probably don't care.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. And
Right.
I think you make a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. If you're nervous, it means you care.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything that we do in a practice situation during the season, we do a lot of live stuff. We do a lot of game stuff. We do a lot of scenario situation. We put guys in spots. We put guys in those situations, and we're playing it live in practice. That's kind of one of the things I love about kind of getting past those first couple of weeks where you're kind of figuring everything out with guys and where they fit in, and then you get right into the live stuff, and you want to build those experiences in practice so that our big thing, one of the big things we say is that, look, if we're doing our job right, we're never going to be in a situation in a game that you haven't practiced yet, that you haven't been in to work out of, down by a couple runs late, or, a situation with runners on base. So, we always just say, look, hey, you've been here before, you know how to work out of it. You know what you have to do. Now it's a matter of, hey, let's go and do it, and, just getting back to what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, we it's funny you say scared, because we always use that in practice. Like, we'll walk up to a guy and say, you scared? And, they're going to say no, because they know, like, hey, what is there to be scared of? There's nothing to be scared of. You work hard every day. You practice every day. There's nothing to be scared of, but I was like, yo, you look scared. You all right? They get insulted. They get offended. They get mad. You can see that fire, kind of in their face and in their belly working up. And I love that, because, that's just kind of the repartee that we have with our guys, and that I have with our guys. There's that's in all of this, those are the things I think one of the things I miss most as a coach is just that every day, just, talking to guys, being around the guys, just that camaraderie that you build up, that they build up between themselves, and that, we have that, back and forth with the coaching staff. And, that's the stuff that over the course of those 3 months, from March, April, May, and into June, that's the stuff that, everybody's playing. Everybody is going to, everybody's used to playing, but it's the everyday stuff that happens in practice and before and after games and things, even during games, that I think people and the kids and us, those experiences are what we miss the most. I think I do anyway.
Yeah. And again, you bring up some great points that a lot of new coaches getting into the field, they're afraid to hurt kids' feelings. Right. So, but what they don't realize is one thing: they're only going to go all out if you create hunger. The lion hunts because he's hungry. If the athletes aren't hungry, they have no reason to go hunting. And coach, you challenge. How do you create hunger? You know how do you create hunger? You challenge them, like coach is saying. Are you scared?
Yeah.
Are you scared? So you're just creating hunger so that, no, I'll show you. So now, all right, I'll show you how hungry. I'll show you I'm not scared. And you're creating an I'll show you mentality, because you show you care by the way you prepare.
Yeah.
And you're doing everything you can, as you said, in different situations. Oh, we've already trained for that situation. We prepared for that one. We prepared for that one. That's how you show you care. Not so much after the game when you lose, because sometimes a lot of that's a show, right? But
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, that's like, it's like being down the whole game and everybody quiet and dead. And then in the seventh inning, everybody's jumping up, going crazy, going nuts on the bench because it's the last inning. Where was that for the 6 innings prior to that where you were losing? And, something else that we talk about a lot too is, hey, guys, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So again, just kind of being in those situations of, where you got to work through something where it's not easy, where it is hard, and then, just kind of alluding to what you said too, breaking a guy down and then building him up. Not everything is easy, and it shouldn't be easy every day. I don't care if it's a baseball practice or if it's in life, and look at the current situation we're in, So I think that, in regards to that, I think, there has to be some of that where, hey, you know what, when you got to get on somebody, you got to get on them, and look, like I said, we do a lot of talking, we do a lot of just communicating, but at the same time, guys got to be chewed out a little bit, guys got to get ripped a little bit. And, our guys are really good at doing it with themselves and policing themselves. That's one thing that I love about, I don't know, the maturity level of some of the players that we've had come through the program, the maturity level of our current seniors right now, because they've been with us we have so many seniors and they've been with us. It seems like some of these guys have been with us all 4 years. Other guys have been with us since they're sophomores. So, they can do that themselves, and they can handle it when we're doing it to them, when we're getting on them a little bit, because, that's just the give and take, and they understand it, and, they're prepared for it, when they get it. And then it just, hopefully forces them to work harder, or just steer them back to where, onto that path of, hey, all right, now I'm back, get my head together and go right back to work.
And the things Coach is talking about, I can tell you this: if you don't have that relationship with the player, a lot of these things don't work, because it's not about rules. It's about relationships. You have rules at the beginning. You have to have guidelines for the athletes. But once those guidelines are established, you work on the relationship with each athlete. As coaches talk about, he has the relationship and respect of the athletes. Once you have that, you can push a little harder, right? But if you push too hard and challenge them, sometimes when you don't have that relationship, sometimes they just shut down. And that's
right. And that's the thing, that's why what's great is that, when you have those young guys coming up and they're around some of our older guys, and they see that, hey, we're pushing those older guys, those seniors, those guys that maybe have a scholarship that are going somewhere. When we're on them and they're not treated any different than anybody else, I think that right away, that establishes what you're talking about. It establishes, all right, hey, this is what this is about here. It doesn't matter if I'm the guy, it doesn't matter if I'm a guy going to a big school with a baseball scholarship. Coach is going to coach, coaches are going to coach. And I think that's something that I don't know. That's never really changed. I've never really thought about doing it that way. It's just how we do it. It's just how I've always done it, and I think that's where the kids, that's where that respect comes in from the kids. I think that's where the kids understand who we are, who I am as a coach. And I think that's what makes it all work. That's why, again, I go back to that word trust. They know who they know who I am, they know who our coaches are, and they know how we do things. And I think at the end of the day, they always understand that we are there to get them better. We are there to get them, to be better. If it's a Wednesday, they better leave practice Wednesday better than they were Tuesday. And that's just something that's how we talk about, moving forward, every day, or, every week, throughout practice. We're moving forward, man. We're not coming out there and it's just it's a boring day. They know they know at noon what we're doing at practice. We post a plan. We post what we're doing. Our guys, my assistant coaches, they kind of crush me a little bit, because I'll go like 4:18. We're going, oh, coach, why are we doing it at 4:18? Why aren't we doing it at 4:25 or something like that? I said, this is how we're doing it. And I stick to it. I'm crazy that way, but it's like, hey, I have a lot of time for this. This is how we're doing it. And I think our guys, they see that. They see the time and effort that we put into, that 2.5 or 3 hour practice every day. And again, I think those are the little things, the everyday little things that just, I don't know, it establishes in their head how important, every day is, how important our practices are. And, how we, there's never a day where they go out and say, hey, what are we doing today? They know, if we post it on the board, I'll post it on like our Google Classroom, the practice plan for the day, and they see how much time and effort I think our guys, like I said, my pitching coach, Nick Coleman, he does a great job with video, and he's giving feedback at night. He's sending stuff out to them about, information and, what they're doing in the time that he's videoing them. Our hitting coach, Brandon Vega, does the same thing. So, I think those things are what allow us to be able to, just keep on our guys, to keep that discipline going, to keep that drive and that fire going, so that, they know that we are there to get them better. And I think that's the great part about what we do.
You said 418.
Yeah.
So 418. I've noticed certain coaches, successful
Yeah.
coaches,
Yeah.
they'll do things like that. All right, we're meeting. What time are we meeting? 4. We're gonna meet at 4, coach. Nah,
Yeah.
3:58.
Yeah.
Why not 4? Because every minute means something.
Yeah.
Every minute of training means something.
Yeah.
Like I tell athletes, all right, athletes who train on their own, who have low discipline. All right, so you don't want to go out and train for a half hour. Can you train for 2 minutes?
Right.
Can you give all your focus and energy for 2 minutes and then go back in the house? Because if you're out there for 30 and you're going halfway because there's no half-hearted champions and you're only going halfway, then can you just go for those 2 minutes? And I just try to explain that the energy you put into every minute is extremely important, especially in baseball, because baseball, you go and you stop. You go and you stop, depending on the drill that you're doing. Right. So some drills are going for a little bit, a little while. But, if you're taking fielding, some coaches are nuts. They're hitting 20 balls at the same time. You got 5 seconds to rest and another one's coming. So it depends. It depends. But a lot of times can you give for that 30 seconds and boom, then give it again. That's why I love that 418. That's important. That's so important.
I learned early on, I think as a high school kid, Danny Mondelli, when he was coaching, he used to call it Lombardi time. Which you're at, practice starts at 3. Hey, you're there at 2:45. That's Lombardi time. You're there, and to this day, we still, I use it. I don't call it Lombardi time, but I say, Saturday mornings, Sunday morning practice, you ain't showing up here sitting in the dugout with a bagel and an orange juice. I said, do that stuff at home. I said, when you get here, we're ready to go, and so that's a little stuff that you establish along the way that time means so much. And I think our guys, again, you want your guys to understand that.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Well, Coach, you and I can go back and forth for another hour, but I try to keep these things between 30 and 45 minutes.
Yep.
So before we end, you made a lot of great points today. You said something earlier. You said you hate losing.
Oh,
if I got this right, more than you love winning.
Yeah.
And so I've done something where really good is the enemy of great. And so many athletes think they're good. And if you think you're good, why would you want to get better? You're already good. And that's what you're talking about here, is that I hate losing more than I love winning. We had another coach on, Coach Rob Kristen. He always said, he's another successful coach, and he said, as you're saying, there's always that other mountain. There's another mountain to climb.
Yeah, sure.
Right, but there is no mountain if you're good. You're in the valley. there's no mountain to climb.
It's funny when you look at it that way. Like I think you were talking about it earlier. If you are, we're fortunate that we got a higher seed in this thing, and we have a lot of guys back, a lot of guys going to places. So I think that was taken into account, but hey, it's like playing King of the Mountain when you're a kid, you got to take on all comers, man. Everybody's coming for you. It's a fun thing. As a coach, I don't, people say, hey, how's it feel? I was like, it's fun. I don't look at it any different being the King of the Mountain or being like a guy has to climb the mountain. Either way, you want to perform, you want to do your best. And I think, that's just kind of staying at that one level and just understand that, hey, it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday afternoon game in April or if it's, the state semifinal in June. We're not going to play it any different. We don't want to play it any different. We want to have that same fire, the same intensity, that same passion, that same desire to just, go out and win that game. Because to me, that Tuesday game in April is just as important as that game and that state game in June, because that Tuesday game in April is what gets you to that point. It's part of the process that gets you to that point. I mean, I think when you want to go through a season, when you want to go on a long run, I think every day is like a step working up a stairwell, or a stairway. You have to, you can't skip 5 or 6 steps. You got to take every one, because, that's what's there for you, and once you, again, you talked about, once you overlook somebody, once you overlook a game, that's when you get caught. That's when they get you. That's when they can put one on you. So, I think that's just part of the process of having to put together a season, put together an opportunity to go and win something. I think that's just part of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love how you create hunger with the athletes.
Yeah.
And how the time. I love that. The one, because it's
It's
important, right? It's important. That 1 minute
stuff,
makes all the difference in the world sometimes in
Yeah.
the game. That second.
Yeah. And you know what, too? I also love, I hate to say this, I hope my players don't hear this, but I love a practice after a loss. I love it because, it's stripping everything away. It's ripping guys. It's going after people. It's creating that understanding that, man, we lost the other day. And in baseball, you're going to lose. That's part of it. You're going to lose a game here and there. But I love creating that atmosphere where, like, oh man, I hate this. I want that to drive them so that. And I always say, like, look, how you feel, the huddle after a loss is, hey man, how you feel right now? That feeling in your belly, that feeling in your stomach. I said, feel it. I said, understand it. I said, because that's what you don't want. I said, we'll always say that that's what we don't want. So, do what you have to do not to have this feeling. It sounds simple and it's nobody feels good after a loss, but if it's something that a guy that makes a difference in a couple guys, and hey, that's, we're doing our job that way. But, I love then coming out that next day and just, going a little crazy, letting them think, this is not what we want here. This is not acceptable here. And I think that's the big thing. It's not accepted. It's not acceptable, so that's just kind of some of the things that we try. I don't know, as much as, you're competing in a season and you have a plan. It's, all those other things I think that go along with it that just make it fun, and that loss obviously isn't fun at the time, but, when you're looking back, and that loss, maybe, we learned something from that loss, and guys learned something from that loss. I think that's where then it becomes, wow, that was a great moment that, allowed us to do A, B, or C,
So Coach, I'm summing up the fact that there's two ways you can deal with the loss.
Yeah.
There's the way where you can just get upset about it, and just when the feeling goes away, you feel better. Or like there's athletes, right? Football season's coming up. Then basketball season's coming up. Are you carrying the loss from last year? But why would you want to carry a loss?
Right.
Because Coach Frank Malta is creating hunger.
Yeah.
He's creating the hunger they need to find out why they lost so they can get better. That's why you carry that feeling with you. Remember why you're doing this. Yeah. Why are we here?
Yeah. What was it that caused that? Why did we lose? Did we make an error in a situation? All right, hey, you know what? We're going to implement that. We're going to add that. We're going to work on it a little longer. Did we blow a rundown? Were we not throwing strikes? We were working behind in the count all day. All those little things, that, we say, hey, look, these are the things that, you need. These are all the things that add up to winning a baseball game, and so I think those are the things that, that I love about the loss, because then you can go work on them. So if we find out, hey, hopefully we find out in April, man, we stink at this. We're not good at this. We got to work on this. This guy doesn't know what he's doing in this, in this situation. I want to find out about it then. I don't want to find out, a month or two later, when it eliminates us from a tournament, So again, that's just, I don't know. That's the process of fun. That's the process of having fun as a coach, because you're kind of moving all these pieces around, and you're trying to put them all in the right spot and make sure that they're prepared, and you don't want to overlook anything. And I think, that's something that drives me, all the time. That's why that practice plan for me is big every day, because, again, we'll say to the guy, hey, look, we'll talk to a couple of our senior guys, or just, hey, where are we with this? We comfortable with this? And, my assistant coaches will do the same thing. And, my coaches also, they'll say, we got to get this in. We got to work on this. I didn't like this the other day. And so again, that's just all those moving parts, coming together in a practice plan to just allow your guys to get better. That's the big thing for us. And that's the fun part of it for me, is trying to put that all together.
Yeah. So you're talking about, so we're talking about the loss, right? So you can look at it a different way. You can say, well, it's not winning and losing, it's winning and learning. Now that might be it's winning and learning.
Yeah, I like that.
But for athletes, that's a little too corny for them. It's learning,
Yeah.
So, but if you take it to a different level and say, well, how do you make good decisions? By making the bad ones. Well, when do you make the bad ones? But that's what experience is. By making, they say, oh, he has a lot of experience. Yeah, he's made a lot of bad and good, and he learned from them. See, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want, and you didn't get what you wanted. Are you carrying that into the next practice? Because if you're not carrying that feeling, as you're saying, Coach, why would they want to get better if that feeling's not with them to drive them, right? There's passion and drive. Passion is you love to play. Drive is you want to get better. You're driven to get better. And that's the feeling you're talking about. Carry that with you. So as you said before, we can go forward. So we're driving forward. But if you have no reason to go forward, like, you got to know why you're here. Why are we doing this? And that's, I think what you bring up, it's important to take that with you, take that feeling with you, because you're going to need it. Going to need it at practice, because you're going to get bored. You're going to get tired. You're going to want to give up. You're going to say, come on, Coach, can't we just hit balls? We're getting tired. We're getting bored sometimes. Well, keep that feeling with you to create that hunger you need to get you through. Every athlete in any sport has felt the feeling of, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I want to give up. They all feel that way. But keep that's how you want to keep that hunger with you to help you drive forward. So, Coach, go ahead. You want to comment? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when it's easy and when you're relaxed, I think that's when you kind of settle into and you sometimes lose your way and you lose that drive a little bit. And I think you don't want to make it easy all the time. You want to make it hard. So again, that loss during the year, that's what makes it a little harder. And when guy individually doesn't have a great game, punches out a couple times, strikes out a couple times, or a pitcher can't find the plate, he knows he's got it. No matter what level you're on, you got to go work on some things. And I think those are the things that kind of keep you moving forward and keep you driven, because in baseball it's you're going to experience failure at times, but it's how what are you going to do how are you going to respond to that, and that's where the elite guys, that's where the elite teams, that's where they're able to kind of just, keep moving on, keep moving forward, to, allow themselves to get to a different level because they've experienced that failure, or because they experienced, something that set them back. They were able to, then drive themselves to get themselves back, to keep working harder, to get themselves better. And I think that's what makes great teams.
So, Coach, any last words before we get to the last dance? The tournament starts tomorrow. You have any last words before we get there, to the players or parents or?
Yeah, our guys are so excited for it. This is, I think throughout all of our meets, all of our Zooms during, March, April, and May, where, we were only able to have contact that way, a lot of somber conversations, just a lot of quiet conversations. And I think once this thing started to come to fruition, that kind of lit our guys up a little bit. I know they're excited for it. They're looking forward to getting back on the field with each other. I think this is a great thing because of it. I think Mike has put this together, and, just reading his emails and listening to him on some of these Zooms, there's been a lot of work to go into this thing. And it seems like it's a great plan right now. I know a lot of kids are excited about it across the state. So, I think we're looking forward to it as coaches. I know my guys are excited for it, just to get back on the field and play with each other. So, it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah. And of course, we can't get through a Last Dance podcast without mentioning Mike Murray, the athletic director and head varsity baseball coach over at St. Joe's. It was his idea as he watched Michael Jordan Last Dance, about his 6 championships. One of the most energized and focused athletes you'll ever see in your life. The guy was out of his mind in every second of every practice, and you don't laugh on his court because he was so hungry. He had one thing in mind, right? It was a championship, even though he already had 5. And that's where Mike Murray got the term The Last Dance. And along with John Kroger is a big part in this. He's a major league scout for the Cincinnati Reds. And along with Brian Chapman, who's the head varsity baseball coach over at Milburn High School. These 3 guys together with Mike Murray's idea has put this together. And we want to make this as safe as possible. We know there's things going on around the country right now where numbers are going up and things like that. So, yes, we are taking it is a risk. It is a risk that we're taking to come out here. And Murray's been talking to Murphy and, to make this as safe as they possibly can. They're going to have the temperature guns. But what can you do? Can you wear your mask? Whether it's you're supposed to or not. Can you bring sanitizer, whether you're supposed to or not? Can you take that extra step to make it safe for everybody, right? Because just one thing could happen, and that'll be the focus of the tournament. We don't want that. Right. We want to be as safe as we possibly can. The excitement that the athletes have right now, we don't want anything to take that away. The coaches have been waiting for this excitement for every training session and every game, and now they're getting it's like a sandlot tournament here that they're getting, and now they're getting the energy the coaches always wanted. So let's make it as safe as possible, because remember, it's not our experience. It's not even the coaches' experience so much as it is the athletes' experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's their experience, and let's make it the best experience could be. Let's make it the best experience it could be for them, because this is going to be the most memorable season, good, bad, or indifferent, one of the most memorable that they've ever had in their lives. So, Coach, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on with us. I said 30 to 45 minutes. I think it's more like closer to an hour. So after the tournament starts, we'll talk. Maybe you want to come back on. I'm sure there's a lot of other things we can touch on. And if you like some of the things that Coach and I spoke about tonight, like I said, we do a podcast on Thursday night here called Think Like a Champion, where professional sports psychology comes on. We talk about the hunger of athletes, how to go all out and not hold back. What does it look like? Dr. Rob Gilbert has studied athletes from champions from all over the world in all different sports, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, ice skating. He studied jugglers. He wants to know how the best trains anywhere. So you can check us out Thursday night, 8 p.m., and I do a locker room speech on Monday mornings to try to energize your focus to help you go out there and train. All this is free. Just go to YouTube and type in All Out Athletes. Everything is on there. So, Coach, any last words here before I end?
No, just thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'll tell you what, the hour flew by. That's a good thing, I guess, right? When you're able to, talk back and forth and it goes quick, that means it was a good thing. I enjoyed it. You made me think a little bit, so I like that. I haven't had to think too much over the course of these few months, so that's a good thing.
It's great, Coach. Coach, thanks a lot. And to all the athletes, the coach brought up lions, right? Lions are hungry, and hey,
Lions and gazelle, baby.
Right, that's it. Every morning, what's the moral of the story? Every morning you get up, you better start running. You're either getting chased by the lion, or you're the lion chasing the gazelle. Are you being hunted, or are you the hunter?
Yep.
Because if you're
another day,
right? If you're not hunting the best, you're being hunted by the best. Yep. So athletes, if you're all in on your energy and focus, and you're all in, as what Coach is saying, his players that he works with, the players that are all in, then the coach can sit back and watch his whole team go all out. Thanks a lot. We'll see everybody next time. Everybody enjoy it. It starts tomorrow. Come on out. Be safe. We'll see everybody at the games, and we'll see you next time on the Last Dance Baseball Tournament podcast. Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
Hey, Coach D here. Thank you for joining us for the Last Dance Baseball podcast before the tournament starts. And thank you to Coach Frank Malta for making it a great podcast tonight. That was great, Frank. Thank you. And good luck to all the athletes at Jackson Memorial High School. And if you want us to come and ignite the fire within your organization, just email us, alloutathletes@gmail.com. Here's a sneak peek to one of our locker room speeches. It's the most important question any athlete in the world should ask themselves. It's only 1 minute. You might want to turn down the volume or stand back away from your phone because it gets a little bit intense. Just what you need before the game starts tomorrow. Good luck to everybody. The most important question you could ever ask yourself is, are you going to hold back, or are you going to go all out? Are you going to hold back, or are you going to go all out? If you're not going to go all out, then get out of the way so someone else can. I'm here for the athletes who want to shock the world, who want to do things that nobody else could do. And that depends on what your decision is to that question. So if you're not carrying with you the failure that you had during the season and you want to do something about it because you should have beat that team, you should have shocked the world. Well, what are you doing about it now in the off season? What are you going to do about it? Because if what you did yesterday still looks big to you, you haven't done much today. See you next week.